Running a business comes with a lot of what-ifs. But luckily, there's a simple answer to them. Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku. And it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what-ifs into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
Hi, this is Tony Ruggiero, and you're listening to the Tour Coach Podcast. Well, we're rolling into fall here on the Tour Coach. And for the fall, just like we've been doing for the last couple of years here on the Tour Coach, I'm going to be bringing you lots of chats, interviews, roundtable discussions on what we do, how we do it, from players to coaches to caddies, students. All of this comes from my travels that are on tour or to Old Palm or from here in Mobile or wherever it is I go around this country or around the world teaching and coaching at the game of golf that I love. So hopefully if you listen, you're going to like what you hear. There's lots and lots of info and content coming your way that I think are going to help all of you understand and play the game even better or coach the game. We've got so many coaches that listen to this Tour Coach podcast. So appreciate all of you that have gone along with me on this journey for the Tour Coach. I didn't necessarily know where I was going with it when I started this. This is when the Dew Sweepers radio show ended on XM Sirius. But I can tell you that it has given me so much freedom and creativity to be able to talk a little more and a little more in depth and bring all of you a behind the scenes, inside the ropes look at what me and my team do and the people that we associate with it and how you can use us as a resource to help you get better at the game of golf. Look, and if you like what you hear on the Tour Coach, also make sure you check out our Pro Work video series, which is available for you on YouTube and my YouTube channel. If you just go on YouTube and type in Pro Work, it'll pull up the episodes that are out there. Some really, really great stuff that takes you behind the scenes and inside the ropes. And before I let you go to the Tour Coach, special thanks to my sponsors that have all been with me for such a long time. Shrixon Golf, been with them over 20 years. Can't find anybody better in the equipment side of the world. Bushnell Golf, such a big part of what we're doing with Pro Work and what I do day to day, especially with the Launch Pro. Vineyard Vines, Ian and Shep, Amber and the folks there always keep me looking great. We've been such great partners for a good long time. And lastly, McConnell Automotive here in Mobile, Alabama. Mitch McConnell and the gang, there's nobody that has supported me longer. I mean, they're unbelievable. And the folks at Buick GMC for supporting the Dew Sweepers radio show, as well as the Tour Coach and as well as Pro Work. So check out McConnell Automotive and Buick GMC. And lastly, my friend Blaine Stokely and Stokely's Midtown Garden Express here in Mobile. Those folks keep the Dew Sweepers and keep the Pro Work and the Tour Coach and all of our content alive and well for all of you that love the game and want to learn. Enjoy the Tour Coach podcast, which is coming your way right now. I was thinking of the last time that I spoke to this teacher. I think I was cruising down 75 then, so I just change interstates, I guess, each time I talk to him. But one of the great teachers in the game, man, he's on the top 100 list, top 50, all of that. Teaches a bunch of tour players. He's doing an unbelievable job with Bryson right now. Dana Dahlquist. Dana, what's up, bud?
How you doing, man?
Man, I am good. I know. I hadn't talked to you in a while. I think the last time I ran into you was out maybe in Phoenix for that Golf Magazine thing out there on the range.
Yeah. That's right. And how good was that weather? Wow.
Yeah. There's a reason it's expensive to go out there in February.
Absolutely.
Oh, shoot. No, but hey, congrats on all the success. Guys playing great. I've always been a big Bryson fan. Man, I just think it's cool how well he's played. We could go into a bunch of discussions about the world of golf, but like how well he's played the last several months. It's been impressive, the 58, winning out there on Live. And for people that don't know, I've obviously been out there a good bit with Andy. Man, the quality golf is exceptional. The top players on that tour are some of the best players in the world, so it's quite an accomplishment.
Yeah, he's exceptional with golf. And, it's very interesting. He is, obviously an outlier.
Yeah.
And when you look at things you and I have both seen guys for years. He's one of those guys that he wants to get to the bottom of something at any means necessary. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a good attribute, especially to like the younger guys that you coach and you try to mentor them, like it's hard for you to really like say, hey, look, there's a reason why these guys are good.
Yeah.
And for Bryson, outside the fact that he's like physically, impressive as an athlete, but like his lack of fear to get the job done is kind of this special thing that he has. And not a lot of guys have that. And it's kind of cool just to be around it. And I mean, I'm just lucky to be around it, to be honest. But yeah, he's going to do just fine. For
no
sure.
question. And I think you hit on a lot of great things there about him. And I got lots to cover with you, but man, like, I think that like, that's the one thing I've always noticed about him. I remember the first time I really was around him was back in college I was at a big amateur event, maybe a U.S. amateur with Bobby Wyatt. And then when Robbie Shelton was on they were on the Walker Cup team together. And I mean, there was always some, and I don't mean different in a bad way, but to me, the people that are the best are a little different.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. And that's what makes them who they are. I mean,
right.
It's interesting. Like if I said there was a parallel between Bryson and Tiger, there is, even though they probably would disagree. And the parallel is just, there is a lack of fear. Mm-hmm. It's like, I am here to win the golf tournament, and they both believe that they're here to win a golf tournament, and they are right 100%. So, it's a cool thing to watch. It's a cool thing to watch.
And it's, I mean, you see people post this stuff all the time on, so, those quotes but like, mm-hmm. There really is something about great players not being afraid to be wrong or to fail.
Yeah, 100%.
There's a lot to that, that just they're going to do what they think they need to do. And I've always said that, obviously before he came to work with you, but I thought that when he went on that quest for distance and beefing up was one of the ballsiest things I'd ever – like he was already a top 10 player in the world. It's not like a guy that was 180th taking a gamble to try to,
100%. Yeah. Yeah. Well, he's trying to take an edge,
Yeah.
And he found it. I mean, to be honest, like, he was working with Chris at the time. Mm-hmm. And, they kind of just said, okay, like, what's the next line item that we're going to check off? And boom, here we go. And I remember when COVID was happening, I was at Colonial. I saw him and he walks up, we start chatting, and I'm like, I'm a little taller than he is. And I go, well, you weigh the same as me. I'm like, wow, what happened? And he kind of told me, I go, wow, that's pretty impressive, because, some guys like talking about it, but he's one of the guys who actually does stuff, which is cool, not only for golf, but for, other athletes to see like things can be done,
So when you get a player like that shows up on your doorstep, right? And so like, a lot of golf nerds listen to this, people that love the game, but we get a lot of, interestingly enough, we get a lot of young teachers that listen to this and they'll email, they ask questions. And one of the ones I get a lot is like, when a really good player shows up at your door, like, where the heck do you start? And so like with somebody like Bryson, and we can use him, but it could be, so many great players come through your door. Like, where the hell do you start with them?
Yeah, I think, well, you could blanket it and just make it really, really simplistic to the fact of looking just specifically at their stats and saying, hey, look, like with Bo was a good example where it was, inside 150. It was like these distance wedges mm-hmm. where you had to do something about that. And then in order to do that, am I necessarily the avenue that you need to be taking? So we would get 3D from guys like a John Sinclair or go to TPI or whatever the thing was that aided us in getting the player to have some conviction about the direction that you're going. And it might be 4 different routes that are going to lead to the same place, but the end of the route is going to be hit the wedge better. So that's like an example. So that's kind of what I do. I go, okay, look, if it's a ball striking issue, then heck, that might be in my lane. If it's short game, it might not be. I look at what's very interesting is you look at Victor right now. So Victor, and I was lucky to be around him a little bit and tell him absolutely nothing because he already hit it good. So and that's pretty much the honest truth. But
those are the easiest ones to coach.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty much like, yeah, you look great, but
yeah.
But and I'm friends with Joe, so Joe's done a really good job. I think on 2 ends. Number one, he's I know Joe very well. He's very kind of black and white on the numbers. And he's like, look, this is a line item that needs to be addressed, and here is my process on doing that. And I know, right or wrong, different, doesn't matter. But and then it gets somebody like Victor to buy into that and then fix his pattern. And then lo and behold, he was able to put $18 million in his pocket. So I think if all coaches kind of adopt that, where they're like, they look at the player kind of in a full degree, whether it be putting, and then have the wherewithal to like pick a guy. So like if somebody came to me who was a top level player and says, hey Dan, I'm not putting well, I'm not going to be the guy I might give him some random thing that I latch onto, but I will actually probably say, hey, look, go talk to this guy over here, talk to Sweeney or any of the other guys that are out there. And I think that's probably a good thing to do. I know a lot of young coaches want to be kind of jack of all trades. And if you're not, then go learn that part if you want to be jack of all trades. But
don't you think it's getting more and more special? I feel like it's like medicine. Like I think, I'm old school, came up under a great old school teacher where we taught everything. Yeah. But man, at that level, I think it's getting more specialized where I'm a set of eyes for some short game. But most of my really good players use somebody else for some chipping, pitching, and putting full-time, don't?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great guys. I mean, look, you got Pierce out there. You got, you got Josh Gregory. You got guys who've been around and seen a lot of different techniques. And, I mean, to be fair, like, the guys I'm watching hitting chip shots are 30 handicaps. So I'd rather I'm seriously. So the guys I'd rather see hit chip shots are, I don't know, guys on the PGA Tour and spend time there. Now, I see everything when it comes to the full swing from a 30 handicap to, a plus 10. But, like, I think it's, I think the specialization is kind of an interesting thing that's happened in the last decade or so.
You brought up teaching like a 30 handicapper to obviously some of the best players in the game. But it's like, that's one thing, like I follow you on Instagram. And I like that because, like, I'm riding down to Old Palm and I'm going to teach, a couple tour players this weekend, but I'm going to teach, several members and people that are 15, 20 handicappers. One guy that I'm going to teach is, hadn't been playing that long. Like, I still enjoy doing that, and to me, it kind of keeps me fresh because you're not seeing the same thing all day, every day, like a guy that can hit it, and also they're generally more happy when you help them get the ball in the air.
100%. That's the biggest piece. Yeah. I think there's a little more fulfillment. Mm-hmm. And, I think even for the younger coaches where it's like, you started teaching and you're new at it. You've been doing it for 2 to 5 years. You're teaching maybe some members or you're at a public range like I'm at, and you just get random people that you're giving lessons to. They're way more appreciative to the fact that you got rid of their slice, you made them hit the center of the face. If Scotty Scheffler is standing at, I was talking to Ted Scott, like standing on, 17th at Harbortown, and he's lacing the ball, from 200 yards to a tucked left pin. Okay, great. Like the guys I'm teaching day in and day out aren't able to do that, but Scotty expects to do that.
Right.
So it's almost like, well, yeah, I should be doing that. So you don't really get the same feeling that you would get to a guy who's 15 that you get him to not hit the ball left of the pin. It's kind of a cool thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to me, I always go back. It's like variety's the spice of life, and obviously folks like you and I are so fortunate to be able to go out and spend time with great players. But to me, it's also equally as fortunate and blessed to be able to say, like, hey, man, like we get to spend a bunch of time with people that just want to get better, regardless. And some of those people, like you said, fulfillment. And to me, I know you teach a lot of good young players and juniors. Like, to me, that's some of the most rewarding. Also being able to watch them grow as people, not just golfers.
Correct. Yes. 100%. 100%.
So let's talk a little bit about the tech you use. Obviously, I see you post a lot of stuff with 3D. How much do you? I like what you said a few minutes ago about getting them to buy in. I think that's huge. And whatever road you go as a teacher, if you're going to teach good players, I think you've got to get them to buy into what you're telling them, and you've got to have some way to prove to them that you know what the hell you're doing.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, so like currently I use predominantly Sportsbox and V1 like for video, and the cool thing with Sportsbox is, people that aren't aware, it's basically developed under the idea of kind of what AMM did, where AMM you strap up and you throw the sensors on, and it was a little cumbersome, or you put like a suit on with some other systems. And the issue that I find is that the time it took for you to do that took 15 minutes to 20 minutes of that hour chunk, and then you get an evaluation done, and then you have to go back and kind of go, hey, look, like this part is not firing correctly. Like let's say it's your lead arm abduction or something like that, or your wrist angle is doing something. Well, the problem is like that took an hour, maybe 45 minutes at best. And then it's like, okay, now what do you have to do to influence that to make it better? Now, there might be 3 different reasons. So what's interesting is if we kind of go back a little bit to like historical, look at this. Originally being a 2D teacher and using film and everything, the reason why I did that is because, Mac was very influential on this. He said that you can literally like take a position from address to the top of the backswing that's going to influence everything that's going on the downswing. So it's kind of like, okay, there's some old school idea there. At the time it wasn't, now it is. And then with Sportsbox, it kind of is the same thing. So when you get in there and you kind of illustrate to people like, oh, like you have 3 inches of pelvis sway on the backswing, and this is actually going to create a chain reaction of a bunch of different things. And it does give you like some tour averages that I kind of use but kind of don't, because I have some preferences on certain things for certain players. So I kind of go, hey, you know what, like this is maybe out of range, but i.e. Rory McIlroy does the same thing. So that's the big thing. And then it also kind of what's interesting about the tech, it kind of allows you to create different buckets. So you can go, okay, like this is a high-speed player, this is a high-handicap player, and these are the differences of the ranges that you're going to see within these players. So like if I was, working on the front of my range and only teaching high-handicap slicers, like they're going to kind of fit predominantly within this one bucket, not with all things, but with most things. So therefore, they're going to kind of fit into this type of pattern. And then when I'm working with a college player who, swings 125, he's going to have this. Or like yesterday, I had a guy who was a very good player, played on the corn for years and now teaches. And he had issues with, path left and down and, that type of thing. And it was interesting because I said, look, in 2D, these are the things that I would do. Like I'd probably increase, rib cage rotation and get more hand depth and all those, quote unquote things. But like, you don't have like a bumper when you go practice on your own that kind of keeps you like, oh, like my hand, the midpoint of my hands is 14 inches, back behind me from where it started at 0. Whereas when you started, it was 9. So that's your hand depth number, right? So stuff like that kind of really streamlines things out. And I think the most important thing is not what the heck I know. It's like, what did the student like take from it, and do they retain it? Like, I think that's the big part. And I don't want to sound like too arrogant here, but I think most people, when they take a lesson from me, they need to understand that this is like a starting block roadmap of what you need to start doing to implement, so that downstream it affects things in the long term. And so we can't get into randomness, like, create drills,
right.
off YouTube. No. Because it's not going to work. And it keeps them kind of in that box. And that's kind of the video side of things. I still use TrackMan, and I have I have used full swing too, so I kind of used both. I think they're both good, and I think what's interesting, like one of the biggest things I like to do is like talking to other coaches and especially the younger guys coming up. It's like you need something that's going to help the barrier of entry. So if you go out and you have a bunch of money and you could buy a TrackMan or a quad, great. But if you can't, get a full swing, get a Rapsodo, get something that's on the lower price range. And especially if you're working with developmental players that need to work on, they need to see what their spin loft is on a wedge if they're hitting a flighted wedge, and just a lot of things that kind of are really, really important. That are tools that are in the industry, that they're there to help.
That's one thing I think, obviously, I've done a bunch of stuff with Bushnell and Launch Pro, and, I've used that a lot for my younger, because like it's at a price point where there's so many options now. I agree with you, like where young players can get something where, when it was the only thing you could do was spend $25,000 to get a track.
Exactly.
That's pretty prohibitive we've all taught the guy who can buy his kid that, but that's not every guy going out there coming out of college trying to play for a living.
That's right. Yeah. And it's a huge advantage. If I have a junior who wants to play college golf D1 and I have another junior and they're both exactly the same skill level, and I give one like a quad, let's just say quad. Okay. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But,
whatever.
They go out twice a week and they practice for 3 hours twice a week, in a total of 3 hours, and they just hit wedge shots and they can see the launch angle, the spin rate, and the spin axis. That is a huge advantage. I don't care who it is. And then throughout the back, because now you have control. And what's interesting is like my range where I teach is a spectacular off the left wind, and we're hitting marshmallow golf balls. So every ball is a Frisbee. Every ball. So, but if you had a quad down, you hit it, and you might see this ball like curve 15 yards to the right, but the spin axis was still left. Okay, I know I'm doing something productive here. Mm-hmm. Whereas most people are reacting to the golf ball. Oh, that's what the ball did. And then the other like outlying thing, which is very interesting, and I know you know this, but I think for the younger coaches out there, they need to understand that they're your eyes obviously are limited on numerous factors, but then even camera is limited too, because you're not really seeing things like angle of attack. You're not seeing the actual launch of the ball. You're generally seeing like the apex. And the other thing that's kind of interesting is like you're really guessing when it comes to like the horizontal swing plane and the vertical swing plane. Now you could see it on a macro level, but you really don't know that. Let's say with the driver, it's at 45 degrees or 50. Like we're guessing at that point. So I think that's what's really impactful about technology. Now, there's a bunch of other things, but those are like the big ones that kind of stick out. It really helped me a lot. It changed my philosophy a lot when the orange box came out, because, I felt like, I had some really good players I was working with, and now I know like, oh, this is what the D plane is doing. I was giving a disservice by, trying to keep guys to swing on some imaginary plane. So,
yeah. Oh, yeah. We've all been there.
Yeah.
One thing when I watch your stuff, and, I think if you travel as much as folks like us do, you have a lot of time on Instagram or something to keep up with other teachers. I think that's kind of the cool thing for me. Like I like to watch people that I respect and just kind of see what's going on but I feel like when a person leaves a lesson with you, they're educated about where they're going and what they need to do to get there, versus just being told something and told to go do it, but maybe not understanding the why. And to me, one of the most important things is like how to monitor it to make sure they're doing it. And that's like huge to me for like a 15 handicapper, much less a tour player. But like, if a 15 handicapper leaves you and he's like, this is why I've got to make the change, this is where I'm going, this is what I can expect, and this is how I can monitor it, man, I got half a damn chance at getting better by the next time I go back to see Dana.
That's right. Yeah, and I think, and guys are pretty good about that. Mm-hmm. It's interesting, like these days, because of social media. I mean, we can harp on social media a lot, but on the other side of it, there is a knowledge-based piece that comes from it where, some of it's very relevant to some and some is not, but it is relevant information. And what's interesting is, like you can go on Instagram and you talk about rotation, and you can talk about extension, you can talk about like all these different subject matters. And guys do have preference. Great, that's 100% fantastic, and I realize that, and then I see the other side of the spectrum, and 100% agree with that too. Like it doesn't mean it fits everybody,
right.
But that's the cool thing about social media is that at least it allows like open dialogue to have this discussion and debate about certain things. Because inherently we're all kind of built a little differently, and have different physical attributes. So we just have to kind of understand that.
Well, I think the cool thing about it is, there's lots of information, and you can pick and choose the things that are right for you to use, and you can take information, you can take information, you got to put it into your style. Like if I showed up on a tee and I took exactly what you said, and I tried to sound like you doing it, it'd be an epic fail, right? Because I'm not you. Same experiences. I'm fat and from Alabama and all that. But you got to take information and put it. Hey, it's low self-esteem day here. But anyway, so seriously, you got. I think that's part of it. Like I tell young teachers, is you got to get information, but you got to figure out how it fits you. And your personality and what you believe. And I had a young teacher recently that, reached out and was like, been going to all these seminars. And I said, why don't you sit down first and just write down all the things that you think are important in a golf swing for a guy to be good. Yeah. And and then come back and then figure out things that go with those, right? Like believe in something first.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to evolve. I think we're, investigate everything. I think number one is every coach that's maybe on that top 100 list is different, and they all have an intent, hopefully, and this is my assumption obviously, but they all have a opportunity to influence other coaches and teachers. In fact, that should be the responsibility. Correct. Number one. And if that's the case, you should, when the younger teachers approach you or ask you questions, it should, and I'm not perfect with this, so I will say this, but at least answer questions and try to empower the younger coaches to get on that list or whatever it is. I think that's really, really important. And to be fair, like somebody who's 20s has more energy than I do. So they're going to have more ability to get more stuff out there. And don't be afraid to make any mistake that you make and just roll with the punches.
Yeah, that's great advice. And I think I'm flattered when a young guy emails or messages, says, hey, can I come watch you? I'm always still like, man, I'm just teaching golf, but sure, come hang out. I'm like, I'm going to put your ass to work though. I might make you jump in there and do something. But to me, that's, everybody's different. But to me, the best way for me to learn is to go observe somebody, but to be involved in it, And kind of why I still do this podcast is, to me, the opportunity to have 30 minutes of your time where I can hear you is valuable. I mean, I'm probably gonna steal something from this that I use with a player,
Yeah. Well, and that's what's cool. Every avenue, whether it be social media, podcast. I mean, to be honest, when I drive anywhere anymore, I'm only on podcasts. I don't want to be fed news. I want to be fed, relevant information from, people in my industry or other industries that I have interest with, and pick something from it. And it's almost like picking up the phone and talking to somebody. It's to that level, which is fantastic. And what's really cool is, I'm on the West Coast. You're on the East Coast. You see certain things, at certain times of the year. I see certain things. So it's a really good way to kind of get a global view of our industry, which is awesome, which is really awesome.
And I also think the industry is way smaller than people you think it is. It's amazing how many people I'll run into that, hey, I heard you talking to Dana, or I know somebody, and they knew. And I tell young people that all the time. Like, that's why you got to be careful what you say about people. And,
yeah, exactly.
And the other thing too is I tell teachers, like, they'll get to be bashed at you, like, until you've stood on the tee with that teacher and watched what the student did, watched what they said to a person, and what the student was saying about, you can't judge what the heck a guy's trying to do with a video or what because we've all been there. We're like, man, it can get a little crazy on a lesson tee with a player at times.
Yeah, it can, absolutely. And a lot of emotions fly.
Mm-hmm.
And especially the better the player gets, generally the more the emotions fly. And either people are very verbal about it, or I've had some guys that I thought did a good job, and 6 months later they're like, well, that wasn't really the direction I wanted to go.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, that's fine. Like, and it was interesting because maybe I didn't effectively communicate enough, or maybe they're more introverted. They don't want to say it. But whatever the reason is, it doesn't matter. But I think the big thing also for a lot of younger guys is even if you don't succeed with, let's say you do work with a professional player or an elite amateur or whatever, don't get upset if they go somewhere else. Like, don't blink an eye, because what you do want to keep is at least the relationship and be okay with that happening, because at the end of the day, the timing wasn't right, and it doesn't matter. Like, at the end of the day, I've tried to get really good at that in the last decade. Every player professional that I've worked with, if they've left, because they're not going to be with you forever. I still have an open dialogue with them, and they still text me, funny stuff, or
right.
I ate in this restaurant, check out what I'm eating, or whatever it is. And that's more important at the end of the day, because at the end of the day, it's about the relationship, not only with students, but also with other teachers. And that's something that I had to learn, kind of the hard way, because when I was young, unfortunately, pretty ambitious and kind of like linear in my thinking. And the problem with that is that linear thinking and me being hard-nosed and trying to be alpha and all this type of stuff, which I probably still am, but
we all are.
Yeah, it really like makes my bubble small and sphere of influence small. And I think we need to, if you're ambitious, you kind of want to look at everything, and you want to communicate with everybody, and the better off you're going to be in the long run. And I know, yes, there are some combative teachers at the top level. I get their names in my head, and I see that. But what's also interesting is I still can talk to those guys, not have a problem anymore, at least, because I get where they're coming from. And they spent the time, like you said, like they spent the time on the range, even though their personalities might be different than me. They spent the time on the range, and I have to take account of that even as a coach. So,
well, I think what you just said, I mean, everybody listening could learn from the fact, like, I always go back to my grandfather worked in the Pentagon when I was a little boy, and I always go back, like, people can he would always talk about how people could disagree, still go on vacation together to play golf. Like, we don't all have to agree on something to get along. Like, you could talk to me about something with a player, and I'd be like, there's no way I would go that direction. That doesn't mean you're wrong, and it doesn't mean I'm wrong. Like, right? It's like, it's okay.
Yeah, it's totally fine. 100%. Yeah, I think the teaching world's in a really good place. I think from what I've seen, at least in the last couple of years, is that there are a lot more teachers now coming up that have way better information than I had access to, better ability to communicate to more students. And it's going to be exciting where things go. I think the tech part, which it was cool that you brought that up, because I had this vision about 6 years ago. Yeah, about 6-7 years ago. Like, wouldn't it be cool? You remember the mirror?
Yeah.
The workout thing. So, wouldn't that be neat if you went to the driving range, you made a swing, and it recorded you, and then, you can select a list of teachers on there. You're like, oh, I want to take a lesson from Butch, and then Butch comes up, and he the analysis is already done, but then Butch has a protocol, and it says, well, hey, you need to do this with your grip, because it's the first line item that needs to be fixed. And what's cool, it's already there. We're kind of there. We have this like chat GTP type golf thing going on with 3D that says, hey, well, this is where these students are and these averages are. And it's cool to see that happen, but there is one missing piece that we just talked about for the last like 20 minutes. And it's the relationship piece and the coaching piece. And until, Terminator walks down the street, I don't think that piece is getting replaced anytime soon. And because I think what coaches probably need to understand, you've seen it, with some of your players for sure, is when you're standing there in a tournament on a Wednesday after the Pro-Am, and they're like, man, I hit 3 balls left. I'm kind of uncomfortable on these holes, and this is what I'm seeing. This is, I don't know how to play them or whatever it is. Well, the video camera is not helping you there. It's kind of like talk the guy off the wall for a minute and then say, hey, this is what you need to be doing. So, that's the other part that's greatly missed. And I think that's why I mentioned Butch.
Yeah, he's the best at that. Best in the world at that. Knowing what to say, when to say, when to kick him in the ass, when to put an arm around him. And that, I think that's an art, for sure.
100%. Absolutely.
Dana, this has been awesome, man. You're the best. I appreciate you always taking time. We got to do it again, and hopefully one of these trips I can get out there and I can catch up with you. I'd love to hang out for a little bit.
Absolutely. I have a very important question.
Oh my gosh.
If you don't mind me asking. No, it's actually, I'm a foodie. So, did they have food on the driving range in Jackson?
So, interesting question. This year, they did. They had some, they had always used, there had always been, I think it was Acme Oyster Bar. I could be wrong. I think that's who had always done it before. And they didn't this year, so they brought in a local caterer that did some barbecue that was very good.
Oh, okay. Okay, good. Yeah, I was impressed. I'm impressed in that town. I think it was like a Wednesday. It might be a Tuesday. I couldn't remember. But the first time walking there, I walk up, and these guys are shucking oysters. And you don't shuck oysters in California.
No.
They come on a plane. So I saw that. I'm like, oh, my gosh.
That's like,
awesome.
No. And I told Steve Gent, the director there, who I think is one of the best. I think that they do one of the best jobs of any tour event there, making you feel welcome. And certainly from my perspective as a teacher, I think they do one of the best jobs at like making it easy for us and taking good care of us. Yeah. I think their food in general, from like in dining, is maybe one of the best we get all year, even is good or better than Majors. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, quite so.
I'm all for Jackson, Mississippi, hosting every tour event.
Amen.
Dana, you're the best. Hopefully we get to catch up soon. Keep up all the great work, and good luck with all your guys. We'll look forward to catching up soon.
You bet. Drive safe.
All right, take care. I hope you enjoyed this edition of The Tour Coach and this conversation that we brought to you about playing, learning, and teaching the game of golf. We'll be back next week with another edition of The Tour Coach. In between now and next week, make sure you follow us on our social channels. You can always find me at The Dew Sweeper on Instagram, or go to our YouTube page where you'll see a scene and a video from my teachings daily on our YouTube channel. You can find that by looking up Tony Ruggiero and the Dew Sweepers on YouTube. Until then, make sure you follow and check out Everything Tour Coach and all our sponsors, Srixon Cleveland Golf, Bushnell, Vineyard Vines, and Buick GMC. I'll be back next week to help all of us appreciate, learn, and enjoy the game of golf.